this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every strike. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems.
Hey everybody, welcome to Blessed Girl Summer Podcast. My name is Tisha. I'm glad to have you with me again. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. So this week we are going to be talking about friendships. If you didn't have a chance to check out my last episode, please go ahead and check it out. I recently turned 48, and so I did a reflection on my year, my year, and how things have changed, kind of what I'm looking forward to in the future. And one of the things that I shared was I really wanted to be able to redefine friendships going forward. Um, the the past few years have been pretty challenging for me as it concerns friendships. And I'm saying the past few years, but I really want to say like 10, the past 10, 15 years. I don't know. Um, It has been. I've always had difficulty navigating that space, even though, ironically, even though if you asked me if it was difficult, I probably would have said no. Um, just because I think I was just unaware of a lot of things and just really out of touch with what was actually happening versus what I wanted to happen. And so I think as I was sharing in my previous episode, going through this master's program as a marriage and family therapist, preparing to become a marriage and family therapist, it really requires you to do a lot of internal work. And this is honestly work that I was doing prior to getting into the program, but I feel like the program just like 10x's it. Like, um, it 10x's my therapy, which is great, which is a good thing because I definitely feel like in order to do this work, I have to have done the work. Come on now, that sounds like a phrase that I've probably heard someone else say, but it is very true. And so this episode, I'm going to just share a little bit about some of my challenges as it concerns friendships and um, kind of what I've learned and what I'm working on. So for me, it has to start back in childhood, y'all. I know, you know, the joke I guess around therapy is everything about your childhood? Well, it absolutely is because that's where you learned a lot about yourself, right? That's where you learn different behaviors, you learned ways to believe, you learned your different traditions, you learned all of those things, how people function, how to handle life. You learned all those things growing up, and you're just moving in what you've learned as an adult, unless you learn something different, right? So that's why a lot of stuff stems back there. But for me, I grew up as an only child. I grew up as an only child. Not only was I an only child, but my father passed when I was 6. I was little when my dad passed away. And I remember not really, I didn't really, there was really no like process for that for me. Like as a child, back then, child, that was in the 80s, early 80s. Um, One nobody thinking about no child therapy, no no grief therapy for children. Like nobody was thinking about any of that. They were barely thinking about therapy, at least in the Black community, for themselves, right? And I don't even want to say barely. They wasn't thinking about that. So, that was a significant trauma that took place in my life that wasn't really um, processed or dealt with, right? Just kind of, it was what it was. Um, but I think for me, that put me in a place of not wanting to be alone even more than I may have desired a sister prior. And so for me, um, it just, I wanted to cling on to a relationship. So I remember one of my earliest memories of like having a friend or thinking about friendship or thinking about sisterhood was when I would be in my room playing with my dolls. I had Barbies, I had like the little Barbie house. And I used to get these Barbie magazines, these Barbie, yeah, like magazines that was like comics, and they were like telling little stories and things that they did. And like Barbie's friend would come over and then they would go shopping or they would do whatever. And so I would be kind of like enacting that in my playtime. But I remember thinking, like, it would be so cool. Like, the way that this would be perfect is if I had a sister, or if I had a friend, someone who was always there with me. And it kind of puts me in the mindset of maybe like if you were a kid and you had an imaginary friend or you created an imaginary friend, just is some sort of comfort, right, for you. And I never did that, but I always imagined like what it would be to have that. And so, there was like a void there for me. Like I wanted this sisterhood. And in my mind, I believed it or envisioned it to be like this great thing where we would just play and have fun and we would be like the girls in the magazine. And we would do all these things together. We would never have arguments. We would never be upset with each other. There would be no jealousy, envy, all these things, right? There would be none of that. What? That's not how Barbie operates, right? So there would be none of that. We would just be sharing all of our stuff. It would just be like this giving relationship and it would just be great. And we would do this forever, by the way. So as I began to develop friendships with people, I had that hope and intent. And so some of my earlier friendships, I was very willing to adjust. Like if I felt like they got upset about something, I was willing to adjust. Like I didn't want you to be upset. Okay, what is it that you want to do? Like even if I wanted to do X, Y, and Z, I was more concerned with doing what you wanted to do to make it work because we have to be friends forever. Because we're not just friends, we're like sisters, right? And I need I need a sister. So that began the journey of my level of generosity in terms of if I have it, you have it. If I can get you some more while I'm getting mine, I'm gonna give it to you as well. I remember specifically for one of my family, friends, cousins, we were, kind of close. I remember we were together Christmas, and I literally was like wrapping all the things in my room to wrap and put under the tree for her so she could have gifts because her family didn't have as much so she could have gifts. So I was like wrapping all of my things, like my bracelets, my toys, my stuff, and I was putting all these things so she could have as many gifts under the tree as I had, or even more. And I wanted her to have those things. And so, um, even when I went into college, I came to college with all the things, the refrigerator, the microwave. Did I have a microwave? No. Microwave was in the kitchen. I had the refrigerator. I had the answer machine. I had the phone. I had like all these clothes, and it was like, what's mine is yours. You know, it's whatever you want to borrow, whatever you want to use, and so a lot of times I found myself being taken advantage of, or um, not treated, I guess you can say taken advantage of, but probably just things not being reciprocated, like not having people treat me the way that I was treating them. Um, I don't know if I would say taken advantage of. I just think that the treatment was not equal. And I think it was as a result of us just seeing these relationships differently, and my slightly imbalanced sense of what friendship meant. Like for me, friendship went right into, first of all, it was easy to become my friend. Like there wasn't a whole lot of proving of anything that you had to do. Wasn't There was not a lot of like building of like trust and like all those different things. I kind of just went all in. Like, what's mine is mine. You say you're my friend? Great, we're friends. And now you get to use everything. And I'm going to give you everything that I can give you, especially if I know that you're asking for something or that there's a need. Um, so that became problematic. The other challenge there was that I was also very unaware. I was very unaware that I was functioning out of a need. I was very unaware that I was just giving, 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 and people weren't giving back to me equally. I was very unaware of that. I thought that this is just the way that things went. Um, when that became problematic is as I began to grow and as I began to learn more about myself, and as I begin to have a different perspective on what is fair, what is right, what is just, um, then I begin to see things differently. And then I begin to want other people to show up differently. And then I had the challenge of recognizing that I had created this dynamic. We have had this relationship and this friendship where it has been me giving, 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 and you could basically do whatever you want to do in terms of non reciprocal, and I was still going to I was still going to do the same things. And so now here I am wanting something different. Like I'm wanting to maybe have a different conversation with you. I'm wanting to maybe challenge you in this space. And the people that I was in relationship with at the time was not beat for that. Like they were not beat for for, you know, for that challenge or for answering those questions or for reciprocating in that way. Um, I had grown in some ways that they hadn't grown. And to be fair, they hadn't necessarily signed up for this different, more mature type of relationship that was equally giving to both of us. That is not what they had signed up for. And so now I found myself, now mind you, I've this has been something since childhood. So I've created a dynamic, or I've created a space where like a lot of my relationships, and this is what I kind of call transactional relationships. A lot of my relationships are transactional. Another thing about me as well is that um, because of the because of my father passing so young, um, and just not growing up in a household where emotions were necessarily expressed and how you were feeling. I never really developed that language to talk about how I was feeling about something, or, yeah, how are you feeling about X, Y, and Z? on a deeper level, other than like the surface. Like, you were obviously mad. Like, we both know when we're mad at something. Um, but beyond mad, like, are you having a difficult day? Is this like, are you sad? Right? It was like I could talk about happy, fun things, and then angry. Like, I know I'm angry, but understanding why I was angry was always a challenge. And then being able to ask somebody else why they're angry was a challenge as well. So it became very interesting when I decided that I wanted more, but I didn't necessarily have the language for it. I was still trying to figure out the language, and I was still trying to figure out me. And so that got pretty sticky. And honestly, in terms of having the language for how I was actually feeling, that probably didn't happen until about 5 years ago. Um, and those relationships were over by then. Um, so that's why I say that it was more of a transactional, because I can tell you what you didn't do, what I felt like you should have did, what I felt like you shouldn't have done, but the emotions and the feelings behind it, I wasn't really expressing. It was um, more contextual. Let me give you the context of what just happened and why I'm angry, but not anything deeper than that, right? And so there were a lot of surface level conversations that took place, and which made it transactional for me and not necessarily relational. And so, and then then you have me over here giving this and providing this and doing this, and just trying to be resourceful. And also, I have a fixer mentality at times. I'm definitely more solution focused and wanting to fix stuff. So again, that's a transaction. Something is off. All right, well, let's talk about it. Let's fix it. Let's get it, like, what's going on. But um not necessarily being willing to sit in, wow, before we get to fixing this, let me let you know that this really hurt my feelings, because it made me feel like you don't care about my thoughts. You didn't care about my time. You didn't, it wasn't kind of any of that. It was more so like, well, this is what you did. And are we going to admit that we did this and not do this no more? type, type conversations, um, which weren't really helpful. And then I think also I was in friendships with people who also struggled. And so it was a lot of us going back and forth with surface. Well, you did this, and I did this because you did this, and if I don't have a problem unless you got a problem, you're the one who must have a problem. Like, it was a lot of that. So it wasn't really any getting to the heart of the matter. It wasn't any really resolution. And so I went through that for years with many of my friendships, and eventually they all ended. And they didn't end because I was like, I'm done. They ended because they were like, I'm out. um, because now, again, go back to me wanting the sister thing. To me, it was like ride or die. To me, it was like loyalty to the end. Like, I guess we're just gonna be going back and forth on this merry-go-round, but we're gonna stay on this merry-go-round, right? Um, but they decided to get off the merry-go-round. So now here I am on a merry-go-round on a horse going by myself. And I'm trying to figure out how I can get them back on this merry-go-round. How I can even get them back on this merry-go-round. Why did they get off the merry-go-round? But the merry-go-round is just going around. I'm just sitting on this thing. And I feel like that is a great analogy for the loop that I've kind of been stuck in as it concerns friendships. And I think I have been stuck in some of those old relationships going around the merry-go-round, still trying to figure out, like, what happened, why were they this, and why were they upset, and why are we talking? And y'all, ghosting is, I am not a fan of ghosting. I think it's a sign of immaturity, and emotional intelligence to be able to express what you have been feeling, what decision you have decided to make, and why you have made it. Um, I think that it, to be able to do that is to respect the individual, um, as well as honor yourself for what it is that you believe or you feel or you need. The other way, you're kind of, I don't know that you necessarily have peace in your heart. I don't get that vibe. Um, I haven't ghosted anybody, so I can't speak to it personally, but from what I've heard, there's a level of avoidance that still is not settled. It's not settled. It's avoided, but it hasn't gone anywhere. And then for the person being ghosted, they are just absolutely on the merry-go-round, right? Um, until, like myself, they make some decisions to accept that they need to get off the horse and they need to get off the merry-go-round altogether. Go find another ride, child. Don't get on that ride anymore, right? Um, so I can say that I am now finally off of the merry-go-round. But you know what it required for me? It required me to own a lot of the hurts, to own a lot of the needs that I had that I was hoping that they would meet, to own a lot of the reasons why I stayed on the merry-go-round, right? I think until I was able to own what I was wanting, what I was lacking, what I was needing, and what I was hoping that they would fulfill, or what void they would fill, I wasn't able to walk away from it, to get off of it. And so I can honestly say, like, it has taken some years, definitely has taken some years to be able to do that. And I feel like chapter 47 of my life was a year where I was able to get off of the merry-go-round. So I'll share this. Um, there is a friendship that I had since high school. And we were very close, and um, our lives overlapped in a lot of ways. And we were just two peas in the pie. And it was one of those relationships that I mentioned. And then it abruptly, there was a shift where it just wasn't good. And I couldn't really pinpoint why, but I knew that some things were not right. And and I knew that they were upset, but they wouldn't really tell me what they were upset about. And I knew that they were upset because of the things that they were doing, which made me upset. And and then I think we just went on this merry-go-round of, I do a little dab at you and I hurt you, you do a little dab at me and I get hurt from that. And it's just like a bouncing thing. And we're just building up hurts, right? Um, but then there was one point where, I wanted to have a conversation about why certain things were done. And they were kind of like, I don't have an issue with that. I don't know what you're talking about. You must be the one to have an issue with it. So then we was back on the merry-go-round. And at that point, I didn't have the capacity to like actively be on the merry-go-round. Even though I was on it, I was still riding it, but I wasn't like, like I wasn't engaged with it, but my body was still on that merry-go-round, if that makes sense. So when I say I wasn't engaged in it, the relationship just drifted apart. Um, and it became this wall and this barrier that impacted other people around us because we were very interconnected and we had a circle that was interconnected with us. And so as we began to drift apart, there was this huge wall that was formed, but the wall started impacting other people around us as well. And so fast forward, we stop speaking, not really friends, but we're still in relationship with the people, other people around this wall that we built. And for some reason, although we have both gone on and done and lived our lives, right? Um, I was still very much on this merry-go-round. And so I wasn't as active on it, wasn't riding the ride all of the time, but things would happen in my interaction with other people that knew us both that would sit me right back on that ride. I'll be right back on that horse. And I had to do a lot of work to figure that out, to figure out how to get off that horse, to figure out what was holding me. Um, and so this year, I was able to come to the conclusion with a lot of and there were little pieces. I figured out pieces along the way, and I'm not going through all the pieces on this podcast. But one of the main things for me at this point in my life, I would say now it's probably been about 7 or 8 years, 7 or 8 years since the wall really like separated us, maybe even longer than that. Maybe about 10 years, 10 years, 10 or 12 years. Um, but what I had to recognize, what I had to let go of was my dream or vision of what this would be. Back to that little girl, right? Back to that little girl that was like, we're going to be doing everything together. We're going to be having friends. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing that. And every time I would interact with people outside of the wall who had interacted with her, who appears to be having this vision with her that I had envisioned, it would put me right back on that roller coaster. The roller coaster. It would put me right back on the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round. I done made up different things. I do actually think that we was on the roller coaster at some point, and then we probably did go on the Ferris wheel. But we're talking about the merry-go-round right now. So I think that it will put me right back on that merry-go-round. And recently, in this last year, I had to own that what I was looking for wasn't her. It was that fantasy. It was that vision. It was that hope. It was that thing. Um, what I was looking for, what I was mad at was not necessarily who she was in relationship with or whatever. It was more so that the idea of them having something that I had wanted that I didn't have, or I didn't perceive myself to have. Well, I didn't have it because I was too busy being on the merry-go-round. That's another thing. If I'm on the merry-go-round going around, it's really hard for me to cultivate something with someone else, right? Because I'm still constantly on this thing because of this vision that I have had of it. And so I had to be able to tell this little girl to let go of that. Like that vision is not reality. It's not the reality that you're in right now. Doesn't mean that it'll never happen, but it's also a fantasy. It's not reality. Like it is not reality. And there are so many other awesome opportunities, awesome friendships that you can be enjoying, having fun with, getting on other rides with, but you keep finding yourself back on this merry-go-round. And so, as I began to do that for myself, have some compassion for the little me that wanted certain things and was holding on to certain things, and give her the courage to let that go and let the big me, you know what I'm saying, live and enjoy the relationships that are around me. Um, I was really able to break free from that, from riding on that particular circle, on that particular merry-go-round. So as I enter into 48, like I'm redefining relationships, redefining friendships, and redefining my definition of friendship, I should say, my definition of what it's supposed to look like and who it's supposed to be and what we're supposed to have in common. And like, rehashing well, let's make new memories of when, right? Like it's okay to do that too. You don't have to go back and try to like either recreate or try to make happen or build. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about that. There's a level of freedom that has come in that. And I'm really excited because there's a lot of awesome people. And it just, what people say, like people take a headspace, free rent in your head. Right. Definitely was a lot of free rent in my head going on. Um, Definitely was a lot of free rent. And there are many other layers to that too, feeling like not being chosen, some rejection, like all those different things are in there. And even feelings of abandonment when you think back to how I lost my dad at 6. And even though he passed away, he didn't like leave intentionally, it's still a level of abandonment. And so now I've created this like, I'm going to have this sister, I'm going to have this connection, I'm going to, get me somebody that's always going to be my person. Now you get abandoned, So yeah, we have to be so careful. I won't say careful, but so aware of how the things that have happened to us in the past are impacting how we show up in the future, even if we don't recognize it, because it definitely is. And it may be for our betterment, but it may not be. And so, super happy that I have grown in that space. And I hope that sharing this story has helped someone else. If you have questions, I'd love to answer them as best I can, give you my opinion, my thought about it. Um, I didn't really want to get, relationships are so um, complicated or complex, right? So there's many things that have transpired in the relationships, right? That I've mentioned. But for me, I had to figure out what was going to get me off the merry-go-round. First of all, I had to figure out why I was on the merry-go-round, why I'm still on this merry-go-round. What I said that was like 12 years later. Why am I still triggered? Why am I so triggered by stuff? Why does stuff still upset me? Why do I find myself saying I'm not going to do something, then I do it? You know what I mean? Over and over. Um, because I'm still on this merry-go-round, right? Even though I might not be actively engaged in it, I might not be listening to the music, I might not be holding on to the thing like I used to hold on to the thing, I might not be laughing like maybe I was laughing before, but I'm still sitting on this thing and it's still going around. And so it's still taking up space in my head. So, yeah, I want to challenge you to explore that. And something like that, I mean, yes, you can do a lot of self reflection, but I think it's really good for you to find a therapist that you can talk to that can help you break down and identify some behaviors or some themes that may be reoccurrent, to help you see like, is this abandonment issues? Is this about rejection? Is this about avoidance? Like what are those things? I think that can be the difference sometimes, like when you're self-reflecting, when you're just writing, you may not know the terminology, or you may not be able to see yourself from the outside in. Um, Whereas someone on the outside can see that and kind of maybe guide you in what possibly could be taking place. And so, yeah, I encourage you. If you don't have a therapist, find you one. Find you one. Find you a good one. Let them know what your goals are, what your plans are, what you want to work on. Um, you can even ask them, like, have you worked with other people on this? And, all those different questions. But um, find one, because I think it's time for us to get off this merry-go-round. Your merry-go-round may look different than mine. I'm sure it does. But I'm telling y'all, it's freedom off of that ride. It is freedom over here. So all right, y'all. Until next time, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Be sure, if you are checking this out on Spotify, you can leave comments, and I can answer your questions. So until next time, remember to secure your peace and cultivate your joy. Talk to you later.
Woke up this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems.